that person, because then they've now just got this feeling of affinity with you a bit more, rather than you being the enemy or something.
I need to go back to my deposition is going to be taken on the person from it's got a bad reputation for really bad with no sport. I tell you that for my advantage.
Okay, so there's a property settlement coming up. You're going to be in the courtroom.
Well, not in court. It's a deposition, third-party discovery.
Okay.
But the question like this, that you swear we have information is got to be true.
Yes.
And this attorney's going to cross-examine Alex. Give him a hard time.
He's going to give Alex a hard time. Okay. So then, Alex, it would be important that you were able to develop rapport with this person. So when you see this person moving a little, that you also move a little bit, and that you are completely... Yes, but make sure that it's below consciousness.
He breaks a lot of books. If he's drinking books, I'll have a book.
Maybe not so much, because that would be obvious, possibly. But certainly, if he had a can of Coke and he was drinking that, right now in the recession, right, you might go and get a can of Coke and just be sitting it, but make sure that it's kind of just like, in the corner of his eye that he sees this. But the main thing is that actually that you can develop rapport with the person, that he'll just feel a little bit more like a brother. That you're like a brother rather than like you're the enemy, actually.
Oh, I'm the enemy, actually.
Yes, I know. However, there's degrees of this, right? Because somebody can all of a sudden think, oh, gee, this person's not so bad after all at all.
So, David, what you're saying is if the person is moving, like if he tends to be a person that is doing this, you wouldn't necessarily mirror that, but you'd have like a rhythm, or you'd match something.
Yes, okay, so, you could cross over. You might not mirror exactly like that, right? But if that was like that, you might go like that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Or if that was like that, you might just like that just a little bit. Or if that was happening up here, and your foot was down here, you might just go, it's close, very close actually. The main thing is that when you are doing this well, we are not noticing that, that I'm doing this.
Pitch and rhythm, like if they start out and say, and you kind of say, yes, I feel that. Would that be kind of like, would you want to match pitch and rhythm like that?
Maybe, you might want to do something subtle with that, but you wouldn't want to make it as obvious. That would be too blatant.
Well, what would be matching auditory then? What would be the volume and the rhythm?
The volume, the rhythm that the person is speaking at, the pitch, the intonation, the volume of shifts, how many times they have volumes of shifts in their voice, the space that's in between, the way, in fact, that they gesture. So for instance, here's another one, Alex. If, let's say, the person who's cross-examining you, when they say, they say, Alex, and what do you think about this, or whatever, and they've done this, well then, you would be sure that you also paced that. And you did it subtly. You lifted your eyebrows up, and you paced that movement of the face. Or if the person licked their lips, and they say, and what about this? And then you might go, and then you say whatever it is, okay? Alright. The main thing is you'll really be much more in rapport with this person.
Bringing and getting in harmony with him.
This is called pacing. Okay, this is about rapport. Have we done a session on rapport? No. We've done a little. Okay, so it's a good idea, Alex, to go over that, and all of us here, to go over those things that are on rapport. Okay, the different ways of what does rapport mean? What does rapport mean? What does rapport mean? When do you know you have rapport?
Yeah.
In harmony with comfortable feeling.
Yes, comfortable feeling. Huh?
Meeting of the mind.
Yes, a meeting of the minds. How do you know that?
And the synchronicity.
You're in sync.
Yes, you're in sync. How do you know that?
Very comfortable.
Yes. You'll have a feeling inside.
It's almost
most
like state.
All right. Look, those of you who truly are interested in using this professionally, then the way that you will know that you have rapport, all right, is after you've paced this person for some time, then you lead and you see if now your lead is being followed. Then you know you have rapport. That's the sign, in fact, that you have rapport. So if you were over the table at the desk, right, going over something, okay, and you really had been pacing this person, and then all of a sudden you lean back from the table, and then to see to what degree you have rapport with the person, does this other person also kind of lean back a little bit from the table to get a larger view of things? If that's the case, then you have rapport. Okay? So the way that you have rapport is to when you lead and you notice that the other person follows, that's when you know you have rapport. Okay? Alright.
I'm going to share this with you. I'll jump in. We have a minute.
Yeah. Because then I think we'll take a little bit of a break, yeah?
Because rapport. I had a contact about 2 weeks ago, and this was a total stranger. And from what we're talking about now, I had a chance to really experiment and play with it. So I come off deep end with it. I came in with this gentleman. He was an older Italian, building a brand new grocery store supermarket. Now usually, like I said, I'm usually visual. I'm talking faster, more than that, all this. And I was going to match his tone, his loudness, everything to the key. And I was just very aware of being obvious, but I thought, oh, hell, go for it. And the guy's sitting back in his office. I go in, he's got a sofa, and he's laid back in a chair like this. So I sit back on the sofa like this. And he's talking kind of loud, and I'm kind of loud back with him. And when you find a system like this, like a scanning system for a supermarket, you always want to look at all the different product lines manufacturers. And this is almost a cold call. And he knew the system, so we sat back and we spent about 2 hours together. After about the first 45 minutes, I got up and leaned forward in front of the chair. He took his feet off the desk and leaned forward in his chair. Later, I crossed my legs. He crossed his legs. But here we go, we got something going. I'm going really slow, I'm talking slowly, and I'm smiling. He's smiling back at me. At the end of the whole 9 yards, I had an order. Right then. No more thinking about it. An invitation to his fishing camp. Let's go. We were buddies. Since the man drove me crazy, beeping me on my beeper.
He's doing like a brother.
Asking for the rest of his equipment.
Yes.
Hey, this gets deep.
Yes.
You're talking about meeting a stranger. That's something.
He's called a satisfied person. You don't use it as a cell eventually.
Oh,
It's this utilization technique's got Alec here.
really amazing. It works, and you can't do it.
All right.
You can almost be overly obvious.
What about for those people who may sense that this is manipulation? If you heard this word manipulation, what do you think about that?
Or insincere.
Or insincere? What do you think about that?
Very words.
What do you think about it?
Yes, what do you think?
Judgment.
Is that manipulation? What if someone said, well, I think that's manipulation?
It was pure pacing. It was. I mean,
Well, as long as it's from his heart and with good intent.
Yes.
You know, because he wants to sell. I mean, if the businessman is
It's one of the games we play. Like, do we need to judge it?
Okay. I would say to this person that was asking this question, I would say to them, is the sun manipulating the plants to come out of the earth and grow toward it? Because then if the sun is manipulating these plants to come out of the soil and turn toward the light, if that's true that the sun is manipulating the plants to do this, then I would say yes.
Well, so long as he uses that, it doesn't hurt anybody, it's fine.
Another thing about it is that what he's attempting to do is find out what this man's outcomes are. Okay, his outcome is to make a sale and to serve this man.
That's right.
This man has an outcome. He doesn't know exactly what it is, and the easiest way to facilitate that is to establish rapport. So you can get that out of the way, and then he can get straight as to what this man's outcome is, and then see if they get a deal or not. If they do, it comes together.
Okay, so you really could simply say this is someone who is really has some degree of expertise and excellence in the way that he is going about his social contact with people. and that anybody, in fact, who has some degree of a sense of social intelligence about them is doing this, in fact. Like this fellow, you know, I mean, he really was understanding rapport at an unconscious level, wasn't he? Because the moment that Dave would sat forward, he also sat forward. This is happening at an unconscious level, usually. And be able to make some of these things conscious, then we're really having choice, you know, in our own behaviour. Well, Ned, and then we're going to think about the
Well, it seems to me that the charged word manipulation has to do with getting people to do things they don't want.
Maybe.
Possibly, yeah. David's situation is totally different. He has a product, he wants to sell it. If he can develop a strategy for selling that is successful, then he has somehow convinced his client that they actually need and want the material, whatever it is. That he has an expertise on gaining rapport just means that he, instead of going through maybe 3 to 5 meetings, he may be able to do it 1 to 2.
Oh, sure. And the main thing is, this man is going to buy a scanner, and Dave has really developed rapport with him. I'm going to buy a scanner from Dave for sure, than I would from someone who's just like, you know, not friendly with
willing to back it up, because this fellow is calling you on other things, and you are answering him. With, you know, if you have the information or not, you just say, well, I don't know anything about that, or I do.
But you try.
But he has developed a friendship. You know, and in business, that's what really your future sales are based on. Exactly. Even if it costs a little bit more, sometimes a lot more, to do it with a friend.
Yeah. I would say that we recognise that this person has an uncanny ability. There's something really quite attractive about this person. This person really is appealing. There's something there that's really enjoyable, and that's what we're talking about.
I have to say a final thing, not a final, but something. When Johnny and I first started learning about rapport pacing and leading, especially Johnny, because he loves to practice these things, kind of like Dave, he'd just say, oh, I'm just going to go for it. Well, we would be in bed, being sweet and everything, and I would be, you know, like, if I was in like this position or something, talking to Johnny, maybe he was like this, and all of a sudden I'd see him kind of go to the digital processing. He'd look at me and he'd go, I would say, well, and he was like, he'd back for him, well, and if I would do anything, and then I'd say, he's just doing that rapport stuff on me, and then all of a sudden I'd go, oh, that's nice. He's really matching what I'm doing to get in rapport. And even though I was totally conscious of it, when I realized he was synchronizing himself to me, it was great.
He cares.
He was great, too. It was a great way to use it.
So, if you didn't have any idea what this person said, right? We didn't have a clue what they said, and we saw them doing this, right? You know, all you would really need to do is to say something like that back to the person, and you've got rapport with them for sure. All right, let's take a 10-minute break.
Maybe would you turn it off, please?
Yes.
Great. What do you do? The second exercise, where you use whole brain functioning and understanding to guide a client to some sort of change. I had a lady come almost right after I got back.
Actually, you should explain what you do so everybody's fresh with knowing what Ned does.
I work with people's health. I use acupuncture, massage, sometimes herbs, food, exercise, and language with my clients.
Ned is a Chinese doctor or an acupuncturist, basically.
That's what I have. That's what people come to me for originally.
Okay.
And she has scoliosis, and she's concerned about that. And she also has a loop happening within her framework of dealing with men. And she has a man friend who has been following a pattern of her relationships, which is a man who's abusive, goes away, comes back, goes away, comes back. And she had just made a decision where she thought maybe she wanted to break off with this man. Because she had developed a dream where he would be a part of her life full time. And he's a dance-away lover. So it's not part of his dream. And she had made a decision where she decided she probably wanted to let go of him. The loop was that she was obsessing on thinking about him. She couldn't literally get him out of her mind. So I was talking to her and working with her body, and she's a very cautious person. So in doing body work with her, I left all her clothes on and worked with her breath and with her ribs, opening up and creating space. And basically we focused on her breath. At first, asking her to breathe on purpose, to get a sense of where the breath came to and was allowed to go no further. So I like to do that at first because when you work with the rib cage, breath immediately starts becoming more expanded. And there's a sense of expansion within it and a sense of lightness. So I worked with the rib cage. Instead of asking her to breathe, I would take a deep breath and then she would follow with a deep breath. Well, that's all we did. And we talked for about an hour and a half, and I just worked with her rib cage. And what I was working with and wanted her to get was to allow thoughts to come and go as the breath comes and goes. So she came back 15 days later, and I said, well, how was the last treatment? And she said, I don't know what happened. It was just amazing. She said, it was already 12:30 into the next day before I even thought of this man again. I said, oh, great. How did that feel? She goes, well, I almost felt guilty because she was used to constantly thinking of him. I said, well, what's happening right now? She goes, oh, I'm back to obsessing on him again. I'm really hanging on to this thought. I said, well, how long did it last? And she goes, actually, it was 10 days. I was free in my body. I was walking and breathing and feeling really excellent. He got in touch with her again, and she had started obsessing again. So when she came back, I just asked her what it was she thought that allowed her to not think of him, to allow the thoughts to come and go. And she goes, well, that was it. I just allowed thoughts to come and go instead of concentrating on it. So then we worked again and did a lot more of the rib cage and some acupuncture this time. And I realized that the metaphor of the breath coming and going, allowing it to come and go, she had somehow put that in connection with her thoughts. And so I felt that that's what we wanted to do again. And so this time I asked her to explain it, exactly what had happened and why she was so successful before. And she did, I thought, a really excellent, perceptive job.
Okay, so just if you can, Ned can hold there. Ned's created whole brain function. The one thing that he did was he did a leverage induction. In other words, he wired this process of ability for flow about the thought of her lover with her breath, so that as she would breathe in and she would breathe out, thoughts would come, thoughts would go. And so literally Ned wired like what we call used leverage, something that's already occurring, something that naturally is occurring, and then attached something else to this thing that's naturally occurring, which is the breath in this moment. And the other thing was that Ned did was he asked her what it was that caused her to not get what it is that she wants. In the way that you framed the question to her, she was focused on what it was that she needed to do, in fact, to move beyond where she was. There was something else that you did too, to create whole brain functioning. But anyway, is there anything else?
One of the things that I do with every client is I ask them what they want. Because they spend anywhere from 1 minute to 20 minutes talking about their condition or their problems. And then I switch it into, okay, now, I understand that, and I can empathize with that. And what is it that you really want? And what she wanted was the ability to release it. And she also wants the scoliosis to go away, and she also wants to just have an easy life, basically, is what it boils down to. So once she had that in mind, that was a goal of an ease of life, and I tried to anchor it with the ease of breath. And the breath to me, is the key for her, since her rib cage is what she really wants to change anyway. The easiest way to change rib cage, in my experience, is to start breathing.
Okay, so it's possible that the way that she was breathing was creating the scoliosis, actually, because of whatever it was that she was protecting in herself as a result of her situation.
Right. And physically what had happened was the left side had caved in and the right side had expanded. So the left side, the heart, was being held back.
Yes.
And she had created this pattern of
So love was being held back from her in a way.
Yeah.
And so this was happening in her physical self. Yeah.
And so I asked her about that too, in terms of, well, this is interesting. Look, over here, this right ribs are really high, and they seem to move a little bit easier, and your left ribs are a little more compressed, and what's the feeling with that? What's happening here? And she goes, oh, I'm protecting myself. So she was really in touch, in some ways, with her process. And she was also in touch with now the desire to change that process. And the metaphor that I used with her was to allow these ribs over here to start flowing and moving with the breath, and to actually put her hands there and to sense it.
Okay. So the other thing was Ned moved directly into what it was that his client wanted, to find out what it was that she wanted. She said ease of life, and more or less this is ease of life. There's an unspecified verb and nominalization. And what this came to was actually the breath. So it would be important that you would say, what specifically is it about the ease of life that, you know, if you're understanding what this is, that it's the breath, then you're going directly to the breath. Okay. Has she moved through some things as a result of you working with her body and also working with her mind as you were working with her body?
Well, the feedback was that she was really surprised that she was able to change. Literally the next day, things had changed on at least a beginning level, where it lasted for 10 days. That's a long time for someone who's been obsessing most of their life, to actually go 10 days without that sense of oppression and being caught. And I use the term loop with her, because I see that it's a loop. We just get into this little loop, and how can we alter the loop? And I said to her, what have you been doing? She goes, I've been trying not to think of him. I said, all right, I want you not to think of a pink elephant with blue polka dots. And she goes, oh, I have to think of it first in order not to think. I said, that's exactly it. I said, allow it to go through. I said, I don't feel that you're going to stop thinking of this man. He's been a part of your life.
Stop thinking of this man.
You did that on purpose? No. However, if you allow the thoughts to come and go, and I gave another story about Zen meditation where their focus is literally on nothing as opposed to focusing on a candle or focusing on something. And I said that what they do is they disassociate from what's happening and allow it to just flow through. And when I did that, I said, yeah, like we close our eyes and kind of sit back a little bit like the Zen people do. And then our eyes open just a little bit. They defocus. So that there's nothing out there that you actually are looking at. You're looking at everything. And it's coming and going. And I emphasized that several times, this concept of coming and going. Hopefully accentuating and anchoring in that breathing pattern. Everything had changed for her in relationship to, it's cool in Minnesota right now, has been for a couple of weeks. And she was actually warmer than she had been before. She had a really nice glow on her face. And she was obviously puzzled that she had achieved some of this goal without understanding how it had come about. And so when I talked to her again, I worked with the idea that it came about because of this, and it was something that you allowed to come and go. And she got it and grasped it.
And one thing that Ned said was that what I did with her was to have her realize that what it was that she was not and then thinking about was in fact she was thinking about it. This not truly didn't exist in her primary experience.
Right.
So she led her more to a sense of whole brain functioning about this? What is it that's resourceful about the way that you could think about this, which would lead you to feel a greater sense of ease? Okay. And nice use of language and use of metaphor to move the person through something. Excellent. Okay. Right, who else would like to present something here?
I have a little story I can tell you, something that happened previously that my little niece.
Let's see if there's a way for us to keep it as much as we can to the answering, like the question.
Okay.
So which question is this to do with?
Oh, I can do it.
Exercise.
Oh, okay.
This is with question number 1 regarding the using the whole brain when you're writing. This is Bob Buckwall, and who's a humorist. And he wrote this article about keeping a secret. And it's easy to keep a secret. Of course, it's not easy to keep a secret, but and he goes through the scenario about how people don't keep secrets.
Okay, so far it's positive. He says it's easy to keep secret, and ease is about something that's positive. Okay, so...
And he goes on to say how one person keeps a secret, but he only tells one person who's very close to, who we're not supposed to keep secrets from. And this person is close to somebody else who can't keep secrets from somebody else, so they pass it on. And he takes it from a satirical point to where people don't keep secrets. And keeps it always on a positive level the whole way through. Never he interjects any negative into it. And even though you give up the secret, he's giving it up in a positive way. And really it's ludicrous to keep the secret, because most secrets that people want you to keep are ridiculous.
Okay, so actually there was really whole brain functioning. It was written resourcefully, and the words that were used was not so much negation, and if there was negation, there was something that we could agree with. So it was whole brain functioning article.
And he operated on the theory that in order to maintain the interest, it has to be pleasurable. So he wrote a very pleasurable on his articles that held the interest.
Okay. Just for Elsa's benefit, when there's interest there, it creates whole brain functioning. Without interest, the person's not exiting into the front of the cortex. Mostly they're relying on past learnt rote, short sequence things. And what Alex did over the last few weeks was pick out this article and look to see, in fact, how the journalist had written the article. Had the journalist written the article from a whole brain functioning approach, or had the journalist written it from limited brain function, speaking about what the problem is, what the limitation is, what the person doesn't want, what they want to get rid of, what's not working, what the stuck state is, as opposed to what it is that we want, what the resources are that we have.
Then there's another article right below it that says Nixon's body is 76, Nixon's mind is 3. He's portraying Nixon as a half-brain person. I didn't read the article in detail, but that's basically what the headline is.
Okay, so basically the article is limited brain function. It's about limited brain function, right? Okay. All right, you had something that you were going to share with us about the niece and whole brain function.
2 years ago, my little niece, she's 6 years old now, was very awkward. And she would try a little thing and she'd fall down. So I started teaching her to cross-lap, to integrate her brain. When she'd walk, she'd touch one knee to cross over like that. And I'd make her do that. My sister thought I was crazy. I'd make her do that for about 3 or 4 minutes every time I'd go over there. And when she'd sit down and draw, I'd make her draw figure 8s backwards. And I'd get her to do it like that. And now she's very agile. I used to tell her, I said, Catherine, you're a pretty smart little girl. You're the smartest little girl in town. And the other day she came back after she was first in the class. I said, congratulations. I said, you made an honor roll. You came out first. She said, that's right. I said, you're smart. She said, I know that. But she thinks she's really got a terrific positive attitude about it. But previously, and her balance has improved 400 or 500%. Because she seems to be fully integrated now.
Okay, so Alex went directly and did some movements involving the analog of his niece, and literally what was occurring here truly was happening in the brain as well. Mostly it's possible that as she was learning before and there was some awkwardness, there may not have been ability for crossing over from one hemisphere to the other. And so literally going into an analog movement of using analog or movement to affect the change really was a powerful thing for her. And giving her some self-affirmations inside that she's a smart little girl and she's a quick learner and she loves to read and that you love her. There were positive affirmations about herself. It's interesting. A friend of ours really wasn't, his son wasn't doing very well at school, and so we gave him some subliminal tapes, and it was just wasn't audible at all what the subliminal messages were that was underneath everything. Within a week, Joshua, this kid's name is Joshua, was coming up, and he was going, "I'm a quick reader. I love reading. I'm a quick study," and these were all the things that were just...
Before either, like a quick study, that's kind of a sophisticated sentence.
So he has done well since then. Before this time he was thinking, I wonder whether I can read at all. He was, whatever the affirmation was, it was negative. Okay. All right.
One of the things, I don't know if you were aware of what you were doing, but with dyslexic children, they oftentimes take them back and do the crawling stage. I didn't realize the purpose of it. I knew that they were doing it, but I didn't realize that the
crossovering patterns in the brain,
I have a friend of mine who teaches the third grade, and I gave her a book called Education for Kids, which is Kinetic Use and Movement to Integrate the Brain. She said, I can't use that in my class. And about 2 weeks later, her daddy had a stroke. And he's having trouble with one side, like the right, left side, about to walk. And they were doing the same thing to him to re-educate his brain, the crossover exercises and different, making him crawl again and all that. He says, they're doing exactly the same thing that your book said. I said, just think, if it works on your dad, it works on your kids in class.
Yes, right. So everybody's understanding this, right? I had a friend who was about 24 and really was a little, it's like a short circuit was occurring whenever he would go to do math and stuff like that. There would be a short circuit that would occur in his brain. So he was unable to add things up and stuff. Anyway, so he's about 24 and we asked him to crawl on the floor and he crawled like this.
The Australian
and actually, so for about maybe a couple of weeks, we had him crawl like this, which is actually crossing over, and so literally the crossing over pattern started to create neural pathways of crossing over in the brain, which is important, for him to do this function in the brain actually, and this has fixed that up.
If you bypass crawling and go to walking while letting the child crawl, he'll progress up to a certain point, but after the child's trying to crawl, we'll pass him up quickly.
Okay, another thing is like slow learners often are finding it difficult to cross the midline of their body. They may not be actually crossing the midline of their body, and so all of these movements are, enhancing and like washing the brain. Okay. All right. Ginger, did you want to go? Do you have an ad or something?
I do want to do it later.
Okay. All right, who would like to go now? Richard?
I'm ready. What I did, a lady friend of mine called and wanted me to write a letter to some fellow in Florida who was the person who would make a decision about whether or not this pier could be built into this back bay in Florida. And
okay, so Richard's an architect for everybody with freshness, okay?
Yeah, and this really had little to do with the fact that I was an architect. I'd been to this lady's beach house, which is on the back bay. This is very serene setting, very calm waters back there, and next door to her place is a property where the developers and townhouse condominiums, and the developers want to build a pier out into this sort of pristine bay, and she wanted the bay to remain as it is, and so she asked me if I would write a letter to this person who is the regulator who would make the decision, and I said sure, I'll do it. So this was right after the weekend, so I looked on it as an opportunity to use what I learned about whole brain functioning. And it took me probably 2 hours to write the letter, because I wrote sentences and I go out and restructure it. And she said that some of the bases for making the decision was it going to create any sort of pollution or hazard, and was it environmentally sound in that instance, or that context, pollution and hazard. So what I did, I approached it by wanting to access this fellow's. I didn't know whether he was kinetic, visual, auditory, and so I used, and even olfactory. I used all of these predicates throughout the letter because I didn't know what he was, so I figured I'd catch him somewhere. And I just described the bay, that how I'd been there and how calm it was, and that I'd seen families in the water enjoying themselves in the safety of the bay. In other words, that there's no hazard. Like it was calm and peaceful, and the water was clean, and the fresh breeze was blowing, and the smell of salt air, and the birds were flying, and then I said, and the developers who wish to build a pier there obviously are wanting to enhance their property and make the property more valuable and more appealing to the people that will be utilizing it. And I said that perhaps there's a way that they can do that and maintain the integrity and the calmness and the pristine, clean quality of the bay, and satisfy their outcome. And I said, I trust that you'll make a decision that will serve everyone. And send it off. And I sent a copy to a lady who asked me to do the letter. I don't know what the outcome is yet. I did get a letter back from the regulator acknowledging that letter and said, we received your letter of objection, which, because that was it. It was a formal letter. They had no other way to acknowledge it other than to say it was a letter of objection. And that was interesting. And the other, the same lady called me back a few days later. She was going to ride in this long bike ride, MS Tour for Cure, and she had fallen off the bike and hurt her foot. And she was concerned that her foot was not going to heal enough to be ready to ride the tour. And she called me and wanted some advice about whether she should go to see a doctor first, a bone specialist, or whether she should go to a chiropractor. And she wanted me to tell her what did I think she ought to do first. And what I did was ask her a whole series of questions like, what would happen if you went to the chiropractor first? And she listed all of her considerations about that and what the possible outcomes were. And I said, what would happen if you went to the doctor second? I just asked her a series of questions, and by the time the phone conversation and her tone had changed, and she had made the choice to go see the chiropractor first, and later I saw her. She made the bike ride. Her foot was healed, and she thanked me for helping her out there. She said, you never did tell me what to do.
But actually, it's very interesting because usually whatever it is that comes out first always is priority.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that comes out first is alerting us to a priority of things, because always the unconscious mind brings always out what it is that's primary first. And so actually, I kind of heard Richard say something like, well, I wonder if you should go to the chiropractor first, and then maybe consider, and then ask her this question. Actually, you've asked a question, but you've made a statement. I think you should go to the chiropractor first. What would happen if I think that you should go to the chiropractor first? I mean, so you're embedding a command actually to go to the chiropractor first, but you're simply asking a question, which is really allowing the person a way to hear it, because the person's thinking they're having choice, which they do, yet you're really embedding a command somewhat for her to go to the chiropractor first.
For multiple choice tests, they say that if you don't you're not sure you know the answer, you read the question, and the first one that sort of just comes to your mind, and you go, no, maybe no, go ahead and go with the first one, because usually your subconscious. I learned that after I flunked out of college the first time.
So I wasn't attempting to have any embedded messages. I assumed that she knew what was best for her.
Yes, that's very good that you are thinking that.
And all I was there to do was just get her
Facilitate it.
Facilitate that.
However, in the facilitation, we are in need of being careful that we are leading, actually. We usually are leading when we ask questions, so that you are developing some expertise in your ability, not so much to lead when you ask a question, but to allow this information to come from the person, or you are leading and you are understanding that you are leading when you ask a question, actually.
Yeah. She may have led first by saying, which do you think I should go to, the chiropractor or the...
Then that would be a flag to me.
I was pretty clear that what she wanted to do was go to the chiropractor first. I mean, it was pretty obvious just from what she was saying, her tone of voice and all that. And I wasn't about to... I didn't feel like that it was my job to encourage her.
Why wouldn't it have done just as well if you had just said, yeah, go to the chiropractor first? I think so too. Period. Could that have been what you said? Is one better than the other?
She was using Richard as a sounding board, kind of.
Yeah.
He just kind of reflected.
Well, anyway, the one thing is that the decision to go to the chiropractor is something that she is deciding. It's possible that she has external reference. The doctor told me that I am, or so-and-so's mother said that I am, rather than I feel that I am this way. So anyway, I think it's a good idea for us to somewhat allow the person to come to the decision themselves. If there's a way for that to occur, then, to have an external reference, to be an external reference for the person.
What I was up to was practicing formlessness. I wanted to really, like you were talking about editing the words, I wanted to really see what it was like to be formless.
Okay, that's excellent. Yes.
And that's, so I wasn't really so much interested in efficiency as it was in having the experiences.
To me, that was really excellent communication between both your subconscious.
What was specifically just then?
Well, not just this,
Oh, okay.
but when you said that you wanted to be formless, okay, so your intent was not that she go to the chiropractor or go to the doctor. Your intent was to reflect back to her. And what I saw and heard was that she's asking permission to do something a little bit, maybe in her circle, a little bit unusual, go to a chiropractor, where her gut reaction is, that's what I want to do. Her subconscious is somehow guiding her that way. And then your subconscious, in its formlessness, by bringing up that, I wonder if what would happen if you went here first. That was a communication between both those subconscious that, yes, indeed, this is a proper decision. Not because your intent was that she go to the chiropractor. So, in that way you were formless, and at the same time there was this unconscious communication between these two beings.
Okay, that's a wonderful thing to sense this formlessness, because you really will develop quite a degree of power in yourself if you develop this degree of formlessness. Okay. All right. Okay. So who's next? That was good, Richard. Excellent. Bringing in the understanding of formlessness, I think that's excellent. Okay. Who'd like to go next?
I'll go next. One of the things that I paid attention to a lot was the organ language, and
Was that part of the
the word
Skipped right down to the next.
that wasn't it.
No. Do something with the first three questions.
Okay, we'll come back later then.
Okay.
I have a real brief one.
So what about this?
Just driving down the road here
All right.
today. I noticed this, it's a billboard, and I noticed it last time I was here too. It's been there for a little while. And it says in huge letters, it says, erase illiteracy. And it's kind of like, wow, that's really violating whole brain functioning. And then I noticed with great bliss this time when I drove by it that somebody had totally ripped it down, and the only thing that's left says "read" in really small letters. Have you ever noticed the sign?
No, I didn't, but that's great. Somebody actually told me it like that.
It looks like the wind just went, and the only thing that's left is the real positive message of "read," which is maybe 50 times smaller than "erase."
Wow.
Okay.
Great.
That's a good one.
I've got one.
We gotta cut the camera eyes. It's live.
Well, I came into a situation, and moving all my things around, I went to get my wood stove that I had stored at a house that I had lived in for a little bit.